Oh no, that wasn't this episode. That was the last episode I recorded just before this one, where Danny spent like 2 paragraphs explaining to me, this is driving me insane with the itching. Today's episode of Brain Blaze is brought to you by Squarespace. More on them in just a bit. Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of Brain Blaze. I, as always, am your host Simon. Well, I'm here, one of my writers, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. Writes me a script. I'm going to read it. Sam, our wonderful video editor, is going to edit it afterwards. It's, game show contestants who beat the system. Let's go. Plinko. I've never heard of Plinko. Plinko is the single most iconic game on The Price is Right. I don't think I've ever seen The Price is Right, but I know they have to guess the price, and then if it's right, they win something, maybe like a jet ski on a thing that's spinning around, something like that. And I definitely have to explain what it is to Simon. Yes, Kevin, if that was a game show, you won. The contestant is given 1 Plinko chip, which is just a big plastic disc, and has the opportunity to win up to 4 more by correctly guessing prices of whatever random junk the advertisers want to promote that episode. Once they have all of their chips, the contestant walks up to the top of the Plinko board, which is just a giant pegboard. If you're wondering why it's called Plinko, it's because of the plink plink sound that the plastic discs make as they bounce their way to the bottom. What is this, some like 1960s shit? You don't have computers?
No.
At the bottom of the board are a series of slots with dollar values. The center slot is worth $10,000 and it's flanked by a pair of $0 slots. They then continue with $1,000, $500, and $100 slots as you get further from the center. It's a simple game and it's mostly random luck as the chip bounces off the top of each peg. There's no way to tell which direction it will bounce. The game awards an all-cash prize and a player can win up to $50,000, making it the most popular game on the show. Somebody who lives hundreds of miles from the nearest body of water isn't going to be interested in winning and thus paying taxes on a brand new I told you there were jet skis! But everybody loves cold, hard cash. On July the 22nd, 2008, taping had begun for another episode of The Price is Right. It was the beginning of Drew Carey's second season as host after taking over for Bob Barker. He was still relatively new and was a bit nervous hosting, especially coming back after a long break. Things were going great during the filming until Nicole Runge won the right to play Plinko. She had earned 4 total chips and made her way to the top of the board to drop them and try her luck. The first chip landed on the $10,000 slot, and the audience cheered excitedly. That's good news for her, mostly because they had to. I've had the misfortune of being part of a studio audience once, and it's f***ing exhausting work. I wasn't even there for a game show, so it's not like I could win anything. Wait, what's going on? How do you... Kevin, that's just like a half story. Anyway, Nicole dropped the second chip, probably from the exact position she dropped the first chip, as that's how people tend to play, and again, it landed on $10,000 to thunderous applause. When the third chip landed in the $10,000 slot, the audience absolutely lost their minds. The most anyone had ever won in Plinko was $23,000, and Nicole had already beaten it with 1 more chip left. The excited girl dropped her final chip, and that's when the show's co-producer, Adam Sandler, not that one, walked onto the stage and grabbed the chip off the board while it was still falling. He walked up to Carey and told him, "The game is fixed." What is this? What's going on? You can't do that. If the game's... What, the game's fixed for her to win? What is actually going on? I'm so confused. Carey almost immediately had a heart attack. He had no idea what had happened, but he thought for sure that he was about to lose his job and go to jail. But unlike the other entries in today's What is Going On, I'm very confused. Nicole actually had no idea what happened either. It turns out that the Plinko board is routinely used in commercials, and they had recently used it to film a commercial for a Price is Right PlayStation game. Whenever they use the board in commercials, they rig it with nearly invisible fishing line so that the chips always fall into the $10,000 slot. Someone had forgotten to remove the fishing line, and it was too thin for the stagehands to have noticed while wheeling the game out. I'm sorry, but whoever... Fuck you if you didn't give this woman her money. She should get all the money. That segment never aired, which is a shame because I'd love to see the faces of both Carey and Nicole when the producer walked out and grabbed the chip off the board. That segment never aired. That segment never aired. That segment never aired. Instead, they shot it again, making Nicole start over with all 4 chips. She only won $1,500 this time, but she was quietly awarded the other $30,000 off camera. Like, yes, that's what I want to see. Honestly, I'd like to see her to get the full 40 grand, but I understand why the producer was just like, oh God, go. But I'm glad she got at least 30 grand. She knew going into the reshoot that the money was already hers, they just couldn't say it on camera because having won that much money would give her an unfair advantage in a later portion of the show. Nicole may not have cheated nor outsmarted the show, but she still got away with $30,000 by playing a rigged game. Press your luck. This is almost certainly the most famous example of someone who outsmarted a game show. Michael Larson was an out-of-work repairman who drove an ice cream truck in the summer. Rather than use his unemployment to do something productive, he instead stockpiled old TVs in his living room to watch multiple different game shows at the same time. Honestly, I've heard of this one, and I know how it goes, and this sounds like he had a very productive summer, to be honest. He had piles of VHS tapes of these shows, and he was determined to beat them. To most people, including his first wife, it sounded like a fool's errand akin to trying to beat Vegas. But Larson wasn't going to give up, and he was actually a pretty smart guy. Smart enough to realize that he had cracked the code in beating one of the most popular game shows at the time, Press Your Luck. The premise of the game is simple. Contestants answer trivia questions to earn spins on the game board. With each spin, you can win cash, prizes, or land on a whammy. If you hit a whammy, you lose everything and start over. 4 whammies, and you're eliminated. You also have the option to pass your spins at any point to the player with the next highest total. This prevents you from going bankrupt, but gives them the opportunity to overtake your score, or for them to go bankrupt instead. Larson spent his life savings so that he could travel to Los Angeles to audition for the show. He billed himself as a small-time plebeian, desperately in need of a chance to win some money. That is going to appeal to those TV show producers. They're like, he's stupid and desperate. That's who we need. God fucking damn, reality TV shows are such pieces of shit. And it's all... So, I've got a massively itchy neck. This fucking, like... Normally it's very comfortable, but maybe... I feel like... Must be using... It feels really sexist, but my wife does all the laundry. I didn't want it to come out of my mouth, but I realize it has to because I'm like, oh, he must have switched to some sort of new detergent. Whereas if I had purchased that and did the laundry myself, I'd know we'd switch to a new detergent. But look, I do other chores, okay, around my house. We just divide it between her and the cleaning lady. Am I right, Peter? But seriously, it's very itchy today and it's quite unpleasant. I'm gonna have to do something about that by switching back to the old detergent, whatever it was, because that was nice and not horribly itchy. Yes, today's episode is brought to you by the glorious people over at Squarespace. What is Squarespace? Well, I'll tell you what, it's the perfect platform for those who want to create a website without any complicated coding. And if you're someone who's like, you know what, I'd rather do something extremely complicated and more challenging and then probably end up with something janky that doesn't work properly and definitely looks ugly, because it's a pretty rare combination for someone who knows how to code and also make a beautiful website, right? That's a rare matching set of skills. But good news, you don't need to worry about that with Squarespace. They've got a drag and drop method of building a website, so anyone can create a beautiful website in no time at all. And I'll tell you what, I've done it. It was easy. You just go in up, bum, drag that there, put that picture in there, write a little text, and you're good to go. It is just as easy as they say. It's ridiculous. I don't know anything about coding, and it's easy. They've also got powerful analytics tools which provide you insight into who visits your site and how they interact with your content. These tools include page views, traffic sources, audience, geography, and more, which is all good information. You know, you build a website, you want to know if people are coming to it, and Squarespace give you that information. Also, you can connect your social media profiles to your website, automatically push content to your social media channels and schedule posts. I feel like I should do that. I mean, I don't really post anything to my website. It's never any blogs or anything. It's just more like my home on the web where people can contact me. Please don't. And do like other stuff like that. But I can see why that would be useful. You can also monetize your content using their member areas feature and unlock a whole new revenue stream. So look, all of this is fantastic. Just go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/blaze and you'll get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. And now back to today's video. The contestant supervisor thought something was off with the guy and turned him down, which makes sense. Oh, I thought they'd snap up this desperate, stupid man. He wasn't desperate or stupid. He was smart and ready. But, you know, that's the character he was playing. I, too, would be immediately suspicious of anyone who tried to describe themselves as some sort of backwards hick by using the word plebeian. The decision was overruled by the executive producer, who thought Larson had the perfect sob story to connect with the show's audience. Whoops-a-daisy. Yeah, he's going to go on the show, and he's just going to show up like in a suit and just absolutely ready to fucking rock. The first round went normally and Larson had earned over $10,000, putting him in third place, but in the second round, he had 7 spins compared to the other contestants' 2 and 3 spins. Being in last place meant that he got to spin first, and round 2 was when he was really going to shine. Oh my god, he put himself in last place on purpose, didn't he? So that he'd get to spin first and know what the machine was going to do. Oh, this guy's so clever.
Welcome to a brand new beginning, you sorry.
What he'd figured out from studying tape after tape of Press Your Luck was that the board only had 5 different patterns. By memorizing the patterns, he could control exactly what square he would land on. While the squares on the game board constantly changed between different prizes and whammies, these 2 had a set pattern. There were 2 squares on the board that never had whammies. These squares always had cash, had the highest cash values, and in the second round, they also awarded a free spin. That meant that this round, as long as this system worked, he could control the board indefinitely. He could literally win as much money as he wanted, which love this shit. It's just like, fuck. I've been practicing. And he'd be like, how have you been practicing, Michael? This is a game of chance. He's like, this is not a game of chance. Let's go! Larson focused intently on the board, making sure to always land on the 2 squares that gave large sums of cash and an extra spin. The producers watched from the control room in horror as they knew something was up. Looking at the video, they could see Larson would press the button and begin to cheer immediately before it even had time to see what it landed on. He didn't need to wait because he already knew. He quickly surpassed milestone after milestone, breaking every record of the show. Those practically begged him to pass his remaining spins so he wouldn't hit a whammy, but he kept on going. He passed the all-time record of 44,000, then 50,000, then 90,000. Once he passed 100 grand, it was time to stop. Passed his spins onto the next player, who hit a whammy on her first spin. His final total at the end of the episode was 2 vacations worth $5,287 and $104,950 in 1984 money, which is nearly 300 grand today. Kevin, I can't. You said this guy did have a productive summer. I don't know what you get up to in your summers, but goddamn. At first, CBS refused to pay Larson. As far as they was concerned, he was a cheater. However, he hadn't broken any of the rules. Not only that, but the show had used the same 5 patterns for its entire run to that point, so once the first episode had aired, everyone technically had the opportunity to do the exact same thing that he had done. No one had been insane enough to try, but technically they could have, and that's all that matters. In the end, they had no choice but to pay Larson the money and to increase the board patterns from 5 patterns to 32, so that no one else could memorize it again, unless they really wanted to.
The 70s, 80s, and 90,000, you kept going. Obviously, you felt right.
The perfect showcase showdown. Oh, wait, doesn't... You can't end there. You're like, oh, unless you're going to come back to this later. We return to The Price is Right for a once-in-a-lifetime event. Wait, so no, I thought you were going to say, and then he did. But he didn't. I guess no one did. It's kind of disappointing. We return to The Price is Right for a once-in-a-lifetime event. Contestants for the show are pulled from the audience and asked to bid on a prize. Whoever goes closest without going over wins the prize and the right to play one of the show's many games. If you get the price exactly, you also win $500 in cash. What are the odds of getting right? That seems like a very low prize for guessing something that's going to be very tricky to guess.
I hope you got your shitting pants on.
That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen enough that it's not suspicious when it does. On November the 20th, $500! A guy just won like 105 grand. This is a lame prize, and this is in 2008. That was back in the day when it was really 300 grand. What the fuck? On November the 27th, 2008, Terry Nice was selected to bid on the opening prize and nailed the price exactly. He knew the prize because he wasn't guessing. It was a prize the show had used before. Having learned jack shit from Press Your Luck, The Price is Right liked to reuse prizes constantly. A big part of this is because the prizes available depend entirely on the sponsors. They're not giving this stuff away for no reason. Having memorized the prices of about who's watching like The Price is Right, and a jet ski company is sponsoring it and giving away a jet ski. And then it's, oh, you know what I do want? I do want a jet ski. Who is that person? Having memorized the prices of about 90 of these different prizes, getting the $500 and the chance to play the rest of the show was a piece of cake for Terry. His preparation got him this far, and a bit of luck got him on the show's final challenge, the Showcase Showdown. In this final stage, 2 contestants are offered some of the show's biggest prizes, and each showcase contains multiple prizes. If you guess the value within $250, which is extremely rare, you win both showcases. While these prizes don't normally appear elsewhere in the show, they are reused throughout different showcases in different episodes. How is this guy the first guy to think of this? It's not obvious. It's more obvious other than like the last one where the patterns repeat. That required a dude with like tons of TVs and like VHS tapes and lots of time. This is just like, wait, didn't we have a jet ski like 3 weeks ago? This isn't like super big brain stuff, is it? This was more than Terry's studying had prepared him for, but while waiting in line, he and his wife had made a friend. That friend was superfan Ted Slauson, a maths teacher who had already appeared on the show once and was trying to get back on. He attended every taping, and if he liked the people sitting near him, then he would help them out. Terry and his wife had hit it off with Ted, so he decided to help them out. Calculating the price of the showcase is more complicated than memorizing the price of individual prizes, but it's still pretty simple. I'm sure Simon has already explained this, but all you have to do is turn the price of each showcase and the prizes included into it into a multivariable equation. Yeah. I mean, the only reason I didn't explain that to you ahead of time was because everyone who's watching this already has done that. They already know this. They already know what multivariable equations are. Keep doing this until the number of equations you have is equal to the number of variables, and from there is just some simple algebra to start working out the prices of individual items that will be mixed and matched to make each showcase. Yeah, obviously, Kevin. Why not explain to me who Anne Frank is?
What the f*** are you talking about?
Oh no, that wasn't this episode. That was the last episode I recorded just before this one, where Danny spent like 2 paragraphs explaining to me who... This is driving me insane with the itching. 2 paragraphs explaining to me who Anne Frank was. It's just your run-of-the-mill recreational maths, and yes, this is a real thing because some of us are massive nerds. While Terry's research hadn't taken him this far, Ted's had, and there's a great thing about The Price is Right, which is that you're allowed to ask the audience for help. Whether you need the help or not, the audience is consistently and simultaneously yelling answers at you. There's no guarantee that any of those answers are going to be correct, but Terry knew that he could trust the answer from his new friend. He's like, do you want to ask the audience? He's like, yes, I would. And the audience like, 400, 1,000. And then he's just like, shut up, you. What do you say? And he's like, $1,769.32. And then he's like, $1,469.32. Boom. God, I loved this. After looking to the audience for help, he made the already suspicious guess of $23,743. While people will occasionally bid random numbers like this, normally they stick to things that are multiples of 100, 10, or at least 5. Instead, Terry had guessed the combined price of all the items in the showcase exactly.
Actual retail price, $23,743. You got it right on the nose. You in both showcases. Hasn't happened since...
While Drew Carey said that it hadn't happened since 1972 or 1973, the earlier episodes appear to be lost to time, and this may actually have been the first time that it happened. It was an extremely exciting and historic moment, and Drew Carey's reaction could only be described as total indifference. He even chuckled to himself while reading out Terry's bid before opening the sealed envelope with the price. Obviously, this is because the producers already told him what happened. Combined with the perfect bid at the beginning of the show, they were sure that Terry was cheating somehow, so Carey assumed that this episode was never going to air. At this point, it was just going through the motions. But there wasn't any cheating involved. Terry came prepared, had some luck to make it to the showcase showdown, and was fortunate enough to make a friend that was even more prepared than he was. Technically, there are 2 different stories for where the exact bid came from. Terry claims that he was signaled to wager $23,000 and that he added his anniversary of the 4th of April along with his wife's birth month, giving him $743. That is a very nice way of being like, just in case you decide to take this to court. That's how I got that number. Definitely not from the maths guy I was sitting next to who's doing the multivariable equations that everyone knows about.
I'm innocent, and Mom, I love you.
This was also a number he claims to have used as a PIN code before. Seeing as 3-digit pins haven't been a thing since as long as I've been alive, this is where the United States were...
The fuck?
And this is the United States, where April the 7th would be written as 47, not 74. I'm inclined to believe Ted's account, which is that he just gave Terry the exact answer. If he wanted to make his story believable, Terry could have at least said that he knew it was close to $23,000 and wanted to wager a prime number. In the end, it doesn't really matter which one of them came up with the last 3 digits. Despite the initial cheating investigation, there was nothing that the producers could do. The show is literally called The Price is Right, so you can't really disqualify people for studying the prices of things beforehand. It would be like saying that Ken Jennings cheated at Jeopardy by knowing a bunch of stuff, or that Roger Federer cheated at tennis by just being better. The Price is Right. The Price is Right has since changed up the prizes it uses and make sure not to reuse prizes so often that this can happen again.
Great job.
I just hope the next time there's a big game show scandal in which someone outsmarted the game that the host does a better job than Carrie and at least pretends to be happy for the person. You're getting paid $12.5 million per year. Let the old maths nerds have their RV. 12.5 million years to present a game show. I'm in the wrong business. Jesus. That's... Wow. Okay, thanks for... 12.5 million! And this was back in the day! Wow. Okay. Thanks for watching.
That segment never read.